Now, here is a look at some of your favorite Swamp Watch moments. Some of the swampiest parts of Washington operate in the dark. Places you never think about, perhaps have never even heard of, are ripe with corrupt behavior precisely because they don't face public scrutiny. Places like the Export-Import Bank.
What is the Export-Import Bank?
The what?
I don't know.
What? I don't know.
Have you heard of it? You should. It's a federal agency dishing out corporate welfare, and it's in the crosshairs of tonight's Swamp Watch. Amazingly, then Senator Barack Obama, as a candidate for president in 2008, explicitly called out the bank's swampy behavior.
The Export-Import Bank that's become little more than a fund for corporate welfare.
Well said, Senator. But then what happened after the election when it was time to reauthorize this swampy institution?
You'll hear some critics suggest that, well, this is just corporate welfare for big multinationals.
Excuse me? Some critics? You were one of them. Wow. Obama got swamped real quick. The Export-Import Bank uses our tax dollars to provide subsidized loans and loan insurance to foreign buyers of American goods. So, for example, if Air India wants to buy planes from Boeing, Ex-Im will loan Air India the money at below-market interest rates. I'm not exactly sure how that counts as exports if American taxpayers are fronting the money for it, but still, the defenders of this bank claim that it exists to support American small businesses. Really? Over 60% of its financing helps just 10 giant corporations like Boeing, Caterpillar, GE and Bechtel, the same giant corporations that spend millions lobbying the politicians in charge of the Export-Import Bank. Every year, a few dozen members of Congress set the Defense Department's budget, a job which practically guarantees huge donations from defense contractors. In 2015, the 48 congressmen and senators who sat on the Armed Services Committee received, on average, $430,000 from defense contractors. It's even more of a jackpot if you chair one of these committees. Come on down, Dick Durbin of Illinois, the second highest-ranking Democrat in Congress, and someone who's constantly popping up on our TV screens, pompously prattling on about the Trump administration's ethical violations. Well, in 2013, Durbin became chair of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, which led to a wave of cash that made Durbin the top recipient of defense industry contributions that election cycle. Durbin counts Northrop Grumman, Boeing, United Technologies and BAE Systems among his top 7 largest contributors. The local hospital with your friendly doctor has been replaced by vast mega hospitals run by administrators on multi-million-dollar packages. Like Michael Dowling, a former government bureaucrat who in 2015 raked in $10 million as CEO of North Shore University Hospital on Long Island. $10 million a year? Let's all join a non-profit. So those insanely expensive hospital bills you get, they're not making wide-eyed, fresh out of med school doctors and nurses wealthy. They're enriching hospital administrators and CEOs. In fact, if you're a go-getting chief executive, healthcare and pharmaceuticals is truly the sector to be in. Exploiting sick people through vital but vastly overpriced services that might bankrupt them, it's really a great gig. Among the 200 highest-paid executives at public companies, those in healthcare and pharmaceuticals were paid on average $37 million, more than any other sector. Telecommunications, real estate, industrials, they don't even come close. And even the tax-exempt non-profit hospitals are cash cows for CEOs. A Wall Street Journal analysis found that the largest non-profit compensation package went to the CEO of non-profit hospital Ascension, Mr. Anthony Tassini. He made a cool $17.6 million. Now look, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against high pay. I believe in markets and I believe people who create value in the marketplace should be rewarded. But it's got to be fair, especially in something like healthcare, where there are vast amounts of taxpayer money sloshing around. And healthcare is not a fair market. It's a rigged market. Lobbying and political donations keep the health swamp going. To his credit, Republican Congressman Tom Garrett has tried to expose this corruption. Talking about why nothing ever happens to clamp down on the health insurance companies, he wrote, "So why hasn't it been done? I can think of one sad but logical reason: money and special interests. The donations and lobbying efforts of entities like Humana and Cigna, Kaiser and WellPoint are massive. This is a sitting congressman telling you that the health insurance industry, not our elected officials, are driving health policy. One of the reforms the congressman is pushing for would expose the health insurance companies to real competition. Right now, that's blocked by the little-known McCarran-Ferguson Antitrust Act of 1945. Yes, the government specifically exempts health insurance from most federal antitrust laws. In effect, this means that markets are artificially restricted and that we have what the congressman calls government-sanctioned oligopolies in health insurance. The House Financial Services Committee regulates the banks. And guess which industry is the biggest donor to members of that committee? The amount of money slushing around this committee has made it highly desirable for any congressman, so much so that it's known on Capitol Hill as the Cash Committee, because sitting on it guarantees, our congressman here is nodding, it's true, because it guarantees fundraising success. What's more, many committee members, not the one here, have direct and close ties to big banks. Representative Steve Stivers was previously the top lobbyist for Bank One. Jim Hines of Connecticut spent 12 years working at Goldman Sachs. Representative Kevin Yoder got $211,000 from the securities and investment industry and another $145,000 from commercial banks in 2 years, 2015 to 2016. It was a good deal for the banks, though. In 2014, Yoder introduced legislation to allow banks to carry out the same practices that some argue caused the financial crash. How lovely for the banks that they have all these members of Congress fighting their corner. And wouldn't it be great if we could come up with some kind of system that would allow working Americans to have their interests represented in government?